Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by CrowCast, of course. Not a very fun weekend again for us, and unfortunately Friday night was the game, so it just made for a pretty average weekend. But never mind, such is life, and we're here to all talk about it and wrap it up and hopefully heal our wounds before the next week. And joining me, as always, is Macca. How you going, dude?
Oh, not too bad, mate. Like you, bitterly disappointed with our effort on the weekend, but you know what footy's like? There's always next week.
Yeah, well, you know, the way it's going at the moment, I'd kind of fear for next week. I don't think I want to know about next week, to be perfectly frank with you.
No, look, we have a major disappointment at this stage.
Oh, shocking. But never mind. Look, thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. We've got a good studio audience filing in and some good viewership filing in on the various platforms. So thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll just be able to lift your spirits as we get into just before the working week. Mac, before we get into the weekend's results, just a bit of an overview, mate. Just give us an overview.
Well, basically, it was a game that we could have won, and you know, some would argue should have won with that particular non-decision. But it wasn't one that we actually deserved to win. If you look at the total game, if Essendon had kicked straight, we wouldn't have been in a situation to even debate whether that free had any relevance to the game. So I thought we opened the game so poorly in that first quarter, and I didn't like what I saw at all. And you had Dawson, Soligo battling like Trojans with very little support, and it was very, very obvious that we missed Crouch in the middle with the distribution. It just we had moments that we played the type of game that we're supposed to be playing, but we had lots of moments where we didn't play it at all, and there was some pretty ordinary stuff during the game. So I don't know whether the coach isn't getting through to the players or whether the players aren't capable of delivering what he wants, but there's a disconnect somewhere.
That's the most funniest minute that I've ever heard, because there's something going on with my earbud and I'm only hearing every third word that you said.
Okay.
Just hang on. Just keep talking for a minute. I'm going to go and get my other headset. Hang on.
Well, you know, missing every second with 2 out of 3 words might help make it make more sense. But I thought our first quarter was absolutely horrific. Because obviously we were missing Crouch, as I said. He does give those quick clearances to players in the open. But having said that, Soligo battled well, and as did Dawson. In fact, Soligo was very good in that first quarter. But we weren't up to it in the first quarter. They had, I think it was 16 entries into their forward 50, and we only had the 6. And it really did just set a pattern that didn't look good for the rest of the game. And we just never really got a true fluid game. They had Merritt, who was outstanding, who is a beautiful disposer of the ball. And they float Martin across the back lines, and he actually kicked the winning goal that put them in a situation to win the game, and that for us to try and get it back. So I just think that overall we had several players that I don't think should be in the side next week, and we'll discuss that as we go along. I could say it all now, but I don't know how long Feen's going to be. But
no, I'm here, mate.
Yep, okay. But there are several players I thought that let us down very badly. In one, either with their form or with their disposal, or in 2 cases, Rich Shelley with ducking his head in crucial stages in the last quarter. So there are a lot of things that could have been done a lot better, and we could have won the game. But yeah, we just, as I said, we started poorly, and I think that was basically our standard for the game. And then we had little patches of good play around that. Not that we had played well and just had the odd bad patch. I just think mostly we didn't really fire.
Mate, I'm well aware that the players played poorly. We fumbled and we messed around with it. We couldn't grab the ball. We couldn't hit a target, all the rest of it. But I've got to say, there's only one thing dumber than watching Lance Stroll go up the back of Daniel Ricciardo this afternoon, and that was the game plan that the coaches rolled out again on Friday night. Because, again, Macca, we tried to play a defensive style of game, and it's... I haven't blocked... Sorry, there's some chatter on there about me blocking some people from hearing audio, but nope, absolutely not. So maybe check your settings or go in and out of Discord. I watched us not run aggressively. There were periods of the game, Macca, where our transition was such that we had more midfielders level or behind the play as the ball was coming out of our defence than we had running through forward to make options. It seemed that the midfield group were charged with not creeping too far up the ground during transition, and it's just the complete opposite of how we played against Carlton.
Yeah, and that's fair comment too. It is fair comment. As I said, there's an obvious disconnect there. Either we're playing to coaches' instructions are no good, or we're not playing to the coaches' instructions. But to me, I think you're right. I think, in fact, if you look at how we played on the weekend, it really is how we played in the first, I think, how many games we played? Is it 5 we played or 6?
6 now. Round 6.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've played. 6 we've played.
Yeah. Well, the first 4 games we played that particular style. Last week we played that game, that style that we played last year, and it looked good. And this week we just went sort of back to that same style. It's no good. It can't win. Can't win games.
No, it can't. Macca, keep going again. There's a few people that can't hear on Discord, so I'm just going to try and sort that out. So keep going for a sec, mate.
Yeah. Well, I made a couple of little notes, quarter by quarter notes, and I'll just read from them. But as I said, our first quarter was quite horrific, and inside 50s was 16-6. Soligo was quite outstanding in that first quarter, as was Dawson. And he had 10 disposals that quarter, Soligo. And on the opposite side, we had Rankin. He only had the 1 disposal in the first quarter. He had 1 in the second quarter. He did come alive in the second half. Dawson, who was power strength all day, and it was good to see Dawson return back to his strength. I thought O'Brien had a marginal edge over Goldstein in the ruck. As I said, Sligo, he was good again in the second quarter. And they were all day. And Rankin did chip in the third quarter. We actually got to a 15-point lead at one stage. But Essendon's 3 goals late in the third quarter made quick work of that. And then we went in 3 points down. We'd lost Berry in that third quarter with a foot injury. And I don't know how serious it is because he wasn't listed as an injury. But you could see...
Who's that, Berry?
Yeah, but you could see quite clearly he was sitting on the bench with his ankle being iced. So I think it's not fair to say that he didn't come off injured.
Well, he definitely came off injured because he hurt his ankle. There's no doubt about that. He wasn't subbed. It wasn't tactical.
No, but the AFL listed as no injuries for it. But so be it. But the thing I was very upset with Rochelle twice ducking his head badly in that. He could have gone for a mark and he sort of didn't go back. He didn't want to get somebody thumped into his back. There was nobody there, actually. And then there was another time when he did duck it when standing another player. And look, I thought he played well for the game, but those two instances aren't up to the standard of what we want from our players at the Adelaide Football Club. Because if you're going to do that, you're not going to win games. And Rochelle's got a ton of ability and... that was very disappointing to see him do that. And I just hope that he has spoken to about that because that was pretty poor. But we also were let down by a couple of players there, Feen, and I thought McHenry. Well, oh God, I thought he was horrific, and I thought.
Well, let's not get too far into individuals, Macca. You know the format of the show. To those on Discord that can't hear, I suggest. Not that they're going to hear this, but maybe someone could type it in chat. I suggest logging out and logging back into Discord because all the settings on this side of the fence look to be okay. So if you are having trouble, could someone please log in, pop in the chat for those that are having trouble to just sign out and sign back in or restart Discord. Macca, look, lots to go through player-wise. I just felt like I felt like again the players went into the game underprepared, or they were asked to play a game style that they weren't really attuned with. There didn't seem to be any system. Again, we were kicking up and down lines. We weren't changing tack very often at all. Our switching was slow. It was like a completely different situation to what it was 7 days prior. And look, to be honest with you, I don't know what the impetus was for it. I understand that Carlton kicked a score against us and we just happened to outscore them. But for goodness sakes, to go completely negative once again, we've had 4 losses this season that have showed that, whether the game plan is flawed or whether the players can't execute, either way, it's just not working. So, why go to that well again? Extremely disappointing. And I was disappointed even at selection, Macca, because, they had the opportunity to bring Will Dowling in, and they didn't. They went with Lockie Shoal again. I'm sorry, but we know what we're going to get from Lockie Shoal. And in a tough defensive game that Matthew Nix wanted to bring, why would you bring Lockie Shoal in, for goodness sakes? I don't know. It just so much confusing selection and thought processes by the coaching staff. And Mac, I heard somewhere that Nix had said that he wasn't planning on debuting Dowling this year, and to me, that's enough to be a sackable offence.
Well, I hope that isn't true, because if that is true, he should be removed immediately, because every player should be played on their merits. And, the lads played so well that he did earn the opportunity this week to have that particular position. And as you say, we know what Lockie Shoal brings. It's nothing aggressive. It's nothing strong. He will compete for a ball if he's not going to get hurt too hard. And once he's got it, he uses it very well. But having said that, it was an ideal match to bring in Billy Dowling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, look, let's, before we get too carried away, mate, let's get into the weekend's results and get those out of the way, shall we?
Yep.
Because it was an interesting weekend, a few upsets, and none more than the first one. The Dogs giving St Kilda a pounding, 19-10-124 to St Kilda 19-64, 60 points to the Dogs.
Yeah, very disappointing one-sided game to open up the round, Feen. It was just right from the first bounce, you could see that it's going to be all Bulldogs, and they just went straight to a 37-point lead at the end of the first quarter, and they went into 49 at half time, and it wasn't a contest. And I would be so disappointed if I was a St Kilda disappointed, because you've got players like Marshall, etc., not firing. A lot of players not firing. But on the other hand, the Dogs, English dominated the rucks in the end. McRae, who wasn't good enough to get a game until the last couple of weeks ago under Beveridge. I don't know why, but McRae played very, very well, close to their best. Bontempelli was very good. Treloar was very good. But
yeah.
And Norton got 6 goals up front, but I think Ross Lyon's got a lot of work, a lot of thinking to do with the Saints. That was a very poor performance.
Well, it's so much different to what they offered up the previous week. That's the thing that I can't work out. They're very heckle and jive at the moment. Pardon me, but they were insipid. And, you could say the same about the Bulldogs. They were completely... It was like the two opposite teams, like they put on the wrong Guernseys at the start of the game.
Yeah, that's a fair comment too.
Never mind. All right, next up we had the Pie. Now, what sort of a schizophrenic game was this? The Power getting off to an absolute flyer, up by 31 points, I think at one stage went there, Mac, and the Pies ended up winning by 42, 17-21, 123 to Port 12-9-81.
Yeah, I started watching the game and I thought Port were absolutely beating Collingwood's backside, and they went to a 31-point lead, as you said quite rightly, and at that stage seemingly cruising. And I thought that this is going to be a really one-sided game with Port beating Collingwood's arse, because Collingwood was showing nothing at that stage and Port were playing very, very good football. But you got to hand it to the Pies. They gradually slowed Port down. They worked out who were their players who were giving them the drive, which Butters in particular was in outstanding form. 15 disposals in that first quarter. Well, they could shut him down. They shut Rosie down and gradually just took control of the game, and they got themselves in front at half time just by a little bit. Then after half time, it wasn't really a contest. They just drew further away. And Cameron, Dacos, they had a lot of good players. But for Port in the end, you could only really talk about Butters and maybe Horn Francis. Port would be very disappointed because, as I said, they looked a very good side for a quarter. And then after that, the last 3 quarters, Collingwood just had their measure and made them look rather ordinary. So they're better than that, but they would be disappointed.
Yeah, it was a complete... I couldn't even tell you what the turnaround was. It was just a complete change. It's quite bizarre. Anyway, the next one was a good one, actually. Carlton, a very, very solid win for them, 17-15, 117 to the Giants, 15-8, 98. Maybe a preview of a prelim, Mac.
Yeah, I thought that GWS would actually take this game out, given the fact that we beat Carlton the week before. But it was a fairly even first half, and as you say, it was a good standard of footy. GWS by 9 points at half time. And halfway to the third quarter, they got to a 20-point lead, and I thought, yep, they've got them. But that midfield of Carlton's, when it fires, it's very, very powerful, and the whole midfield started to get on top. And once they get on top, they get it forward, and you've got Mackay and Curnow up forward. They are a very hard proposition to handle, and yeah, that's what happened. I mean, Cripps and Walsh, etc., and the two ruckmen, DeConning and Pitterman. I can't remember his name, but Pitternet, that's the guy. Yeah, they got totally on top in the ruck, totally on top around the ball, and then the party was over then. So in the end, GWS, Toby Green, what did you think of his collision with the player's head? I think he's got a week.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's what you get these days.
Yeah, he was going for a mark, I thought.
Yeah, look, it's gotten a bit over the top, Mac, I reckon, because you can't avoid game day accidents, and I think it's a bit rough to put the duty of care on a bloke going for the ball when they're both going for the ball. So they both should have a duty of care, and it's just a toss of the coin who comes off worst.
Yeah, I just must mention in that particular game too, full credit to Walsh. He'd been out with a back injury for so long, and he come back and he played two outstanding games in the first two games back.
He's a jet, mate. He's a jet. If he stays healthy, I'd be putting money on him for the Charlie, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Next up, look, Brisbane will be bitterly disappointed by this one. A horrible game too. Geelong 99-63 to Brisbane 4-13-37. Terrible weather, I know, but what a game. What a slog.
You must have read my notes, mate. That was going to be my opening lines.
Well, you couldn't really think anything differently, could you?
No, it was a shocking game to watch. I didn't enjoy it one little bit. No. It was a horrible game. And then Brisbane did actually win the first quarter, but just slogging away. But after that, they got outslogged.
Well, I mean, it was probably the best of the weather in the first quarter. And after that, it just started belting down, and it was just terrible. But Geelong showed a little bit more in the clinches and were a bit cleaner with the ball as well. I think Brisbane tried to overhandle the ball. Pardon me, once the weather got a bit rude.
But that's fair comment. They tried to play their normal handball run-on game. You don't do that when it's wet. Whereas Geelong, they're a pretty smart club. They play percentage football. And that's what they did play. They lost Stewart too through concussion, which made no difference. No, they kept powering away. I don't really want to talk too much about the game. It was a boring game, but in the end, Geelong kicked away in the last quarter, and Brisbane have really got to have a rethink because I think they've lost every home game, haven't they?
Yes, I think they have this year. Anyway, you didn't want to talk about the game, so we'll move on to this one, which was a massive ball over the Eagles, 16-9-105. I reckon there's only one team that I'd rather not barrack for than the Crows, and that's the Fremantle Dockers. Macca, what a bloody roller coaster that is. 10-8-68, Eagles by 37.
That's a very fair comment too. Actually, I only saw part of this game, but Eagles were far too good. They led all game, and in fact, it was a thrashing at three-quarter time, and then the Dockers got a few goals late to make it, a respectable thrashing. But Yo has gone right back to his very best. He's injury-free at the moment, and he was very good. But Harley Reid, now, this is what really bugs me. We get a number one pick, and that's the year. The 1 year is not an outstanding midfielder available. That's the 1 year. I mean, how to be, Harley Reid had been available the year we had picked one. By God. Look at that. Seeing this guy, he is going to be something very, very special. And it was a toss-up between him and Yo for best on ground. And I mean, the kid's played, 5 games or 6 games?
5 games, yeah.
He is outstanding. And I think both sides could rue the game. The West Coast probably blew a priority pick by winning as they did. And Freo, well, they're blowing their finals chances by losing. So there was a couple of losers, even though one side won.
Yeah, I don't think the Freo Dockers are any chance for the finals, Mac. And as for the Weagles, I think they'd just be happy to win a few. I think they'd be beyond the priority pick stuff.
Yep.
And then today, Gold Coast would be disappointed with this result too. 17-8, 1-1-0 Sydney. Gold Coast 8-9-57. Sydney, in the end, 53 points.
Yeah, look, Sydney showed the way in the first quarter. They got on top of the game. Gold Coast fought back in the second to get within reasonable touch. But no, after that, it was all Sydney. And Sydney's a good team. And they're going to be up in the finals, and they've got a lot of good players in their side. Interesting thing was their first ruck with Grundy and Adams, both was a Collingwood first ruck going back 2 years ago. And they were two of the most outstanding players on the ground. So,
everyone was writing Big Brody off, but I'll tell you what, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time at Melbourne, and I'm glad to see him enjoying his football again. And the Swans, they know how to turn out, like that midfield, apart from Adams, is relatively young. They know how to turn over a list cohesively and without dropping too much in terms of performance and results. Probably a bit of a textbook for some other clubs along with Geelong.
Oh, I have to agree with you, Pete. I mean, Sydney and Geelong are probably two of the best sides at it. Port do it better than we do. Not quite as good as these blokes do, but
no. Port don't do it better than us. They've won nothing. They've won nothing.
Fair enough.
Macca.
Fair enough. Yeah. At the end of the day, when you look at results, yep.
Well, I mean, you can get close doing a lot of stuff, but unless you get the results, it's all for nothing. My view. And then I just had a feeling this morning North would snitch this one, and how stupid. Hawthorn 17-11, 1-1-3, 45 points over North. That score's not right. 18-8, 68. I don't know what that's all about, but it was wrong. Hawthorn by 45.
Well, consistently with my picks all week, right through the weekend, I got that one wrong as well. I thought this was a game that North could win, and given the Hawthorn's form, they were very, very ordinary last week, and apparently their coach just flogged the guts out of them during the week, gave them a lot of tough love, and they came out and they carried it on what they were doing on the training track onto the game, and they absolutely dominated in the midfield. And once you dominate the midfield, you're halfway home. And they had one stage, they had a 9-goal burst, which was crossing the second and third quarters, and then the game was all over, and from there it just waddled on to its conclusion. Sheasel and Zeri were very good for North Melbourne, and Newcombe and McDonald for the Hawks, but there were a lot of other good players I could mention as well, but nobody cares.
I mean, for Hawthorn to overcome North's strong point, which is their midfield, is not a bad sign for them. Anyway, whatever. North and Hawthorn, they're irrelevant, as are we at the moment, Macca. As we look at the round 6 ladder, and now we can finally have a ladder that actually means something, because we've all played 6 games. And
Correct.
We have Geelong undefeated on 6 out in front, followed by Sydney, GWS and Carlton with 5 wins. And then Port, Melbourne, Essendon on 4 wins, and then in the 8 on 3 wins is the Bulldogs. Out of the 8 on 3 wins is Fremantle, Collingwood and Gold Coast. 2 wins Brisbane, St Kilda and West Coast. 1 win Adelaide, Richmond, Hawthorn, and yet to open their account North Melbourne. So we are now below a team that has been absolutely flogged for the last 3 seasons, Mac.
So it says it all, Fee.
After a quarter of the season, we are below the team that got absolutely pantsed for the majority of the last 3 seasons.
And I can only repeat, I said or even before round one, or don't hold the ink, don't sign the coach. Wait till round 10 to see what we're doing before you resign. And
look, I've been thinking about this, Mac. I've been thinking about this. There's a lot of talk about some performance clauses in Nix's contract, and we'll never know for sure. But if we take those rumours as somewhat true, then I'm starting to think that they were going to. Maybe they were not going to sign Nix in the off season, and maybe Nix came to them and said, "Look, I'd like to be able to progress through the year with some level of security," and so maybe they've gone, "Well, we'll give you another 2, but you're on notice, and here's the performance clauses that the KPIs that we expect you to hit." That's the first logical train of thought that I've been able to come up with in 6 weeks about this.
Look, I hope that's right, but have you ever heard any rumours to that extent, though?
Well, I've heard that there are performance clauses. Okay, I've heard that he's got KPIs and targets that he's got to hit. So I would imagine that there'd be a expected win-loss by the bye. And I would expect that if we get to the bye in the shape that we're in at the moment, there might be some issues.
Yeah, well, look, you live in the moment, and in the moment we're living in at the moment, he's not the man. The performance, as you say, the game plan that he's got them playing, if that's his game plan, because that's what they play. Bar 1 week where he said that he was going to be more attacking. They were attacking that week and they won. But the other 5 games, they played, as you said, a very defensive type game. And we just don't have the cattle to play that type of game. And it's not a winning type of game anyhow.
Well, it's not. Again, we struggled for avenues to goal, Macca, didn't we? It was just... like you just didn't know where the goal. All of a sudden, our forward line looked lacking cohesion again. We didn't have any method going forward. We turned the ball over. Like admittedly, the players were sloppy. They didn't handle the slight dew, which made it slightly, slippery. They didn't handle it at all. They certainly didn't handle Essendon's pressure. But again, Macca, there's been one game this year where we haven't been subject to elite pressure, and that was Carlton. Every other game we've been subject to elite levels of pressure, and in each of those games we've played this stupid stop-start, hold it in, progress slowly type of game, and we're almost inviting the opposition to come at us.
Well, you're just giving them every opportunity, because you're not really putting them under pressure. You're just trying to hold the pressure. And, if you just allow that situation and you've got no counter pressure, you're going to end up cracking in there, because you're not putting anything on them to stop the attack. So it's just a stupid plan.
I saw in the first quarter, Macca, there was some run out of defence, and I think Michael Annie had the ball on the halfback flank. And I saw 3 midfielders, Dawson, I think it might have been Berry, and it might have actually been Laird, just jogging, and they were maintaining a line with where the ball was. It was as if they'd been instructed not to get ahead of the ball, not to run forward of the ball, for fear that we were going to get done on the turnover. And as a consequence, there were no options presented for players as they were transitioning out of defence. And that's why we kept having to go down the line. It actually makes me want to stop. Like, I didn't watch a lot of football on the weekend, because it's not that the Crows lost on Friday night, but I was just so frustrated watching it. It's just such a dumb way to play football.
Well, I'm the same as you. I mean, I was so frustrated after the game because um, the free kick was just or non-free kick was the icing on the
I
cake.
mean, that's different matter.
I mean, that was just icing on the cake. But if you go back to the subject matter, which is how we play, and as I said at the opening, on how we played, we didn't deserve to win because it was a terribly, as you say, terrible. If that's a plan, it's a terrible game plan. If it's not the game plan, well then we're not playing to any plan because there was a couple of moments where we did these quick burst attacks and they worked, but they were just rare.
Yeah, and as a consequence, we kicked 11 goals, they kicked 10, 18, so we lose again in a hard slog. But was his game plan really that effective? Because Essendon still had 28 shots for goal. It could have very easily been 18 goals 10, and a 7-goal beating. It's just because we only lost by 3. In general run of play, we didn't look anywhere near it, apart from a small stretch, I think it was the third or whatever. But if I was a player, I mean, look, we're making assumptions, but I just feel like you can say it's the players not executing, you can say it's the players not playing to the game plan, you can say it's the players not holding shape or whatever the hell else he's been saying for the last 6 weeks or whatever. But then when you see a completely different style of game be successful and the players all of a sudden hitting targets, all of a sudden providing options, all of a sudden hitting up forwards on the lead, and it be successful, albeit that, like Carlton, by rights had every right to win that game as well. Thus it was, could have gone either way. But it was certainly a far better and more attacking brand of football. And then you come back to the Essendon game and you see us, missing disposals, fumbling the ball, getting caught under pressure time and time again, not having any avenue to goal, kicking to... our forward 50 entries were just despicable. They were just terrible, Macca. Just terrible. Not even just missing. They were going to places that there wasn't anyone. Kicking it into the crowd almost. How can you be that Jekyll and Hyde if it's not in some way, shape or form influenced by the game plan you've been asked to play?
No, that's true. There were other factors too. There were the fact that when we went forward, we didn't lower the eyes. There's a classic one with Laird, for example, going forward. Tex made a beautiful lead right in front of his man. Laird kicks the ball, just kicks it over his bloody head to nobody, and the ball rebounds.
That was shocking, Macca. Laird did that a couple of times. That was absolutely shocking. Or he could not have been looking because there was absolutely no one there or running to where he kicked the ball.
Exactly, but at AFL level, you are supposed to look where the ball's going to go, where you're going to kick it to. And if you look, you would see Tex there leading straight at you. He must just kick blindly every time.
So, there's a few, and we'll get into individuals shortly, but there was a couple of lads that had stinkers. Rochelle, we'll talk about, and Nankervis, I think, had a bit of a stinker as well, and whatever. But Brucey Laird had an absolute stinker. I don't care about the possession count. He had a stinker. Brodie Smith looked like he was in traction, for goodness sakes. Should never have been out there. I nearly made Macca spit his drink then.
You did.
That would have been good. And we made other players. We made Fogg look bad. I mean, Fogarty didn't have the best of night, but oh my God, some of the delivery into that forward line, not even near him. It doesn't. And when you watch other teams kick the ball into the forward 50, what are you taught to do, Mac? You're taught to kick to space. You're taught to actually kick to and basically direct the forward where you want them to go by kicking it there, right? we just kick on people's heads, or we try and drill them with stupid flat passes, or we never kick it to their advantage. It drives me crazy.
I felt very sorry for Fogarty. I thought this was a game he was actually trying to do something. But if he ever made a lead, he was bloody ignored anyhow. Well, the only time they ever went to him was when he had 2-1 on him. So, I mean, I forgive Fogarty for whatever the real results of his game. I don't know how many positions he had. It wouldn't have been many. But I must admit, the way we used the ball coming was just bloody so bad. I mean, and every time they kicked to Fogarty, he had 2 players on him. But if he made a lead in the open, they didn't kick to him. So,
yeah,
pathetic. And you mentioned Smith there, and I just got him. There has to be a club ruling that he cannot kick off from a point. He is running down there to get a free and easy kick from the goal square. And if you remember rightly, there was one there, he kicked it out to his right-hand side where there were 2 of the opposition to 1 player of ours. Why would you do that? I don't know. Only Smith would know. I just did a big dump kick out there where you've got Keane who can actually pass the ball. You've got Hinge who can use the ball beautifully. And yet you've got this idiot who just does dump kicks, kicking off because he wants to run down and get a stat against his name. The club should just ban him from doing that.
Well, I reckon since for about the last 10 years, we've made an absolute mastery of kick-outs long and to the right. I've never ever seen a team kick so often to the same position. You know,
Right.
and every now and again Hinge will often look for a short one and all the rest of it, but even when we kick it to the pocket, it's usually a slow one. I've never ever seen a team so inept at getting the ball out of defence from a point, Macca.
We are in it. But if you let Smith kick off, you also run the threat of a ball flying back for a goal. I will say that Keane in particular is good. He's got a very neat kick, and Hinge is a neat kick. They're the only 2 players that should be allowed to kick off from a point, and they should. I remember Keane kicking one, and it was on the opposite side to the one we always kick to, and I thought he's kicking to a pack, but no, he lobbed it into one of our players' hands. So, you're right. We normally go kick to the right hand side and we kick off, but the one that really got me was when Smith ran and kicked at the 2-on-1 situation.
Oh yeah, shocking.
This is just mental.
Yeah, shocking. And look, and I often wonder what goes through their heads, because it's not as if we've got some towering ruckman or key position players that are going to pull down a 50-50, right? So every time Smith kicks it long and to the right, we only have a 50-50 chance of getting the ball statistically. And really, when you consider that Riley O'Brien can hardly take a mark, and we've got absolutely no one else that will take a pack mark like that, because we've got Worrell stationed in the pocket, we've got Michael Annie stationed in the pocket, like we've got marking players stationed in pockets. They're not where the fall of the ball is going to be. So if I'm Brodie Smith and I'm seeing Riley O'Brien down there, surrounded by opposition players and a couple of ruckmen and whatever else, what makes me think that that's a good option?
Well, you have to be. I think he's deranged. He's got no clue. He's clueless. It just makes me so angry. He should not be allowed to touch the bloody ball with the goal screen and kick off. Just shouldn't be able. I mean, his kicks about enough. Normally, just dumps them anywhere. But you can't do that from the back minute from a point. You're inviting a goal to come back at you.
But Mac, that's occurred through multiple coaches over a long period of time. So either defensive line coaches don't know what they're doing, and even you and I could do it, or Smith is just arrogant and does what he wants to do. Because you can't we have absolutely no system going out of defence. I would love to see the stats over the last 5 years of goals kicked from kick-ins and see where we rank, because we're useless.
Well, what I like is you watch other sides, and I do watch what other sides do, and the good sides they vary it in the sense that sometimes if they think there's a strong point, they will kick long into that position. Often they'll kick to a player will make a lead into the pocket, and when the opposition player comes in to stand that, the bloke that has kicked off is still running and runs past with a handball. So he's actually getting the ball now about 25 metres away from the goal and kicks it long down the wing side, and got it back up to the middle of the ground at least. So, I mean, they used various ways of getting there, whereas we just do the standard dump kick. If you vary it, well, then they're not sure what you're going to do next time.
Yeah. So, all right, let's straighten up a bit. Obviously, we lost Butts through injury and Crouch suspended. We brought in James Borlase, which I can live with, and Lockie Scholl, which I really can't live with. Mac, as mentioned at the top of the show, I thought selection was weak. And why do we keep going back to the well with players that we know aren't up to scratch, Macca?
Look, I can't answer it because I wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But look, Lockie Scholl's not the answer to be in any side that's ever going to win a premiership.
No, he's not.
He's got skills galore, but he hasn't got courage galore, and he'll get the ball when it's easy and it's his turn and use it well. But that's not what you want to. That's not how you win games. You win games by getting the balls that really weren't your ball in the first place. When you've actually stopped somebody getting the ball and ripped the ball off them, and then got it forward our way against the odds. That's the player you want.
That's exactly right, Macca. Lockie Scholl would probably look great on the track because he's got a neat kick. He can kick on both sides. He's a good mover. He's got a nice haircut. He's probably very polite. Says thank you after the ball was kicked to him. Thanks, Fogg. Whatever. But it takes more than that to be an AFL footballer. And I ask you a question: if Lockie Scholl played in the SANFL, do you reckon he'd be much more effective?
No, wouldn't they? It's just the same.
That's right.
It's the same.
That's right.
He might even find it a bit harder because they're a bit rougher down there.
Yeah. Yeah, he is so much like Rory Atkins. It's not funny. And we've seen how long Rory Atkins has lasted under Hardwick's regime. And we should do the same. And the fact that we pick him ahead of others that could get a run is just beyond me. We had young Dowling pick up another lazy 27 in our defeat to Glenelg on the weekend. He was quite good again, and I just... I see these other teams, they're blooding their youth and they're trying to rotate them through and all that. And we've got coaches that just want to, I think the word was about Curtin, for example, they wanted to protect him. Mac, the last time I saw, you can get a broken jaw or do an ACL or get cracked ribs or bust a cheekbone at any level of football.
Yeah, I don't think they mean. I don't think they mean it in that sense. I think they're gun shy because they. What was the name of that guy that we took a
Mackesy, one player.
I think they're gun shy because of Mackesy. He was definitely played prematurely, and he was no good. Well, he struggled, and his confidence was shot, and he just got worse and worse, and he was never going to be a player, and they destroyed him in his first year.
I'll counter that. I'll counter that, Macca, because I think the reason why Fisher Mac was played too early was that he wasn't an AFL player, and he was a poor choice. Because I'll give you a player like Ugo Hagen, right? Now, he looked a bit all at sea in his first season, but now look at him.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. That's good. Yeah.
So if you've made the correct, a first round player, a first round draft pick, should be close or pretty close to getting into a team, particularly a developing team, within half a season. Absolutely, at the most. There's no reason. You know, they played Max Michelani from game one. You know, they played Josh Rochelle pretty early on. You know, Thilthorpe's been in and out of the side. The only reason they're not playing Curtin is because they've made a mistake. If they and then what do, Mac? They play him at full back in the twos. Against that big lug of a forward for the Bays, they played a kid at full back.
I didn't see the game. Do you know how he went?
Well, he didn't go well. None of us went well. It was completely mismatched. It was a ridiculous positional selection. He's not a full back.
No.
He's not a full back. He's a third tall or a utility. If we think we've drafted a key position defender, then we've got rocks in our head and we didn't watch the tape.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. A lad like him, they should be giving him a run on the ball down here and just to let him get a feel of the ball, get some ball.
Well, I mean, look, at least don't make him a sitting duck by putting him full back against one of the best forwards in the league and a big bastard too, McBean. Yeah. You know, he's an 18-year-old kid. He might have the height, but he doesn't have the size against a player like that.
Or the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look, personally, I'm highly sceptical about Curtin, not because I don't think he can play. It's just that I don't think we picked the player that we thought we were picking, and now we're gonna put him in positions that don't suit him.
Well, I thought we were picking up a player that would have played on a half-back flank and or maybe a centre half-back eventually, but or graduating on like Sheasel, like you play him in the back lines and then you to the once they get their confidence up, you move them into the midfield. That's what I thought we were picking.
Yeah. As Bedosi said on Twitter chat, Adam Kelly described Curtin as a key defender on 5AA on Saturday. A key defender.
Oh, that's not what we took him as.
He's not a key defender.
Oh God,
he's not. And if we start playing him there, we're going to kill him.
What a club! What a club! They don't do much right.
Well, I mean, Adam Kelly, as I've said to our listeners, time and time again, I've never met a less qualified person in the position that he's in.
Look, the young lad, he should be on a half-back flank like Sheasel is. Let him get his confidence up. I mean, he's tall, yes, but he can still run. And then play him on a half-back flank, get his confidence up. Eventually give him a crack in the middle where the footy is. And you give him the lad a chance. But play him at full-back against the Giants, that's bloody stupid. Absolutely mental. It's mental.
Well, here's the thing. The way it's going, you could not at the moment pick Curtin on form because he hasn't been allowed to play, and as Nick keeps saying, show is a weapon. So there's a good possibility that we'll go through the season without having debuted a lad that we manipulated our draft picks in order to specifically get him. We targeted him.
Yes, we did.
You know, we fluffed around with our picks in order to get him. Like we made and we were so pleased with ourselves, Macca. So pleased with ourselves. What a coup. What a coup. Did we actually have a look at any tape? Did we actually look at what he was doing in terms of how he was playing? Oh, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, sadly, I have to agree with 100%, Feen. I mean, it's so disappointing. But, you know, you when you get a... what would he pick? Did he pick 8 or...
Pick 7, I think it was.
Pick 7. A pick 7 has got to be not necessarily ready-made to play, but not far off of it. But then to put him into fullback position, he's never been a fullback. Oh God, it just This club never ceases to amaze me. If there's a new way to be stupid, they'll find it.
Well, it comes back down to the fact, Macca, we haven't got the right personnel. And we went on about this a couple of weeks ago, and nothing's changed my mind. Adam Kelly is an absolute lame duck. I've never heard him make any sense in any press conference or any interview he's ever had. He was lucky to be SANFL administrator, and then to get picked by the Crows was just madness in my opinion, and obviously an influence of John Olsen from his time there. I can't think of any other reason. But in such an important position in this club, to put someone with no AFL background, no AFL experience whatsoever, into that position, he's basically a glorified administrator running our football department, and it's showing. It's showing, Mac.
Well, it's 100. I mean, what we need is, and I know we nearly got him, but unfortunately we didn't. Like somebody like a Neil Baum, a football person, a pure 100% football person, who reeked football and reeked football knowledge. That type of person, and that's who should be in that job, not the guy who, as you said, looks and sounds like an administrator, not like a football bloke. Not like somebody who's really, really steeped in it. Like, if Neil Baum was there, I would sure he'd be telling the coaches, telling everybody a lot different things to what's being told at the moment.
Yep. Look, let's straighten up again, Macca, because we've gone on a rant again. But selection proves it, in my opinion. Selection is just an absolute joke at the moment. All right, so let's get on back to the game and go through some team stats, shall we? Essendon won the disposal count 376 to 362. It's basically a few more handballs. Inside 50s, though, 62 to 43, so they were far more effective with their ball use. We just kept going up and down the lines, Macca, up and down the lines. Disposal efficiency was relatively even. Efficiency inside 50, however, was less than even. Hit-outs 46 to 49. I didn't think O'Brien did too bad in the ruck, to be honest with you. I think he did all right. No,
I thought he did well because the guy he's rucking is a good ruckman. So he used his bulk very well on him.
He is 138 years old, though.
Yeah, but he's always troubled him in the past because of his long arms. But O'Reilly used his bulk to sort of push him out slightly out of position. I thought he did very well, actually.
Keep talking, because this has pissed me off. I want to fill my wine glass, so I'll be back in a minute, Mac.
Okay. Well, yeah, I thought Riley O'Brien, if you look at the head-outs, he did win the head-outs. They didn't necessarily always go to a player, but that's the way it is with ruckman. But and the one thing that we do lack, of course, in O'Brien is a marking ruckman. It makes me very envious when I see a player like English. The Saints ruckman, he takes mark after mark, and it would be just great if one day we did actually draft a ruckman who could actually play in that calibre. Nobody would ever knock out Riley O'Brien. He gives 100% in terms of effort, but he's not the most skillful man that ever existed.
Last decent ruckman we had, Mac, Sean Moran. We haven't had one since.
Sam Jacobs?
Just a different version of Riley O'Brien, really.
Oh, no, he could actually take a mark.
Stores had about 2 good seasons, I reckon.
Did have a couple.
Anyway, let's continue. Clearances 42 to 43, centre 10 to 9, stoppage 32 to 34, so pretty even there. Possessions, contested possessions 138 to 143 in their favour. Uncontested possessions 211 to 226 in their favour. Turnovers 81 to 72. Mark 77 to 70, 77 to 70 in our favour. Mark's inside 54 to 7 their way. Contested mark 6 to 5. Tackles 63 to 80, Macca. Severely out tackled there. Tackles inside 50. I'm actually surprised that we were this close, 15 to 16, because there was a fair disparity at one point.
There was.
1%ers 59 to 72 their way. The stats don't really tell the story because, in my opinion, we spent, like, if you look at time in forward half and time in possession and all those sorts of stats, what it tells you is that we had our share of the ball, but we may as well, like, we just were doing nothing with it.
No, and we're lucky that we didn't lose by more because with all things being equal, if they'd had a better percentage ratio in converting shots for goal into goals, then we would have, because that's their poor kicking for goal. Well, that was one of the reasons that we stayed in the game.
That's right. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it because it was really that simple. It was really that obvious. It was simply a matter. It came down to ball use. Mac.
It did. We really did miss Crouch in the centre because as a distributor. Because to Saligo's credit, he did have quite a few bursts, but he had to, out of the centre. But he had to do it the hard way, where instead of getting a clean handball to him on the run. So I thought we really did miss Crouch. And I think if Crouch had played, it could have been the difference between actually winning and losing, because we would have done left the centre much cleaner than we did, because most of our forward thrusts weren't very clean. Whereas Saligo was outstanding. Some of those clearances were really hard fought for him. They weren't just like take the ball and clear run off. They had to twist and turn and duck and etc. And I thought he was outstanding. He is growing in front of our eyes. He's gone from being at one level, and every time he's going out, he's going up to a higher level. But this guy is going to be very good.
Oh, 100%. Look, it's great to see his development, and the weight of public opinion, I think, more than anything else, has got him into the midfield rotation. It was great to see Geordie Dawson regain some touch, particularly after half time. But Scott did his homework. He put a fairly heavy tag on Isaac Rankin, and didn't let Ranks off the chain all that much, and as a consequence, we couldn't get a lot of outside ball. That said, our ball use didn't really lend itself to a lot of outside running. But apart from Saligo and Dawson, we had Laird with 23 touches, who was our next best, but not our usual output from our midfield, that's for sure. No.
And a lot of Laird's positions were very poor positions too, in terms of where they went to. So, we were down. We were down in that sense. But the one shining bright thing for the game is Saligo, and we're watching I was just thinking, watching a star growing in front of our eyes.
Yeah, you mentioned that. So apart from Saligo and Dawson, if you look at the top 10 disposal getters for the game, Saligo and Dawson, the top two, then Merritt and Martin for them, Hinge for us, and then Gresham, Caldwell, Parrish for them. So 6 midfielders, and then Durham as well. 6 midfielders of theirs in the top half a dozen, or top dozen, to our 3, Mac.
Yeah, Merritt was outstanding.
They worked a lot harder.
Yeah, Merritt's quality, and once you give him the ball, it's deadly because he's such a good user of the ball. Martin is that floater across half back they use, he's got great skills, and he actually kicked the goal that put them in front. So they got good value out of their good players. There's no doubt about that. Durham was he was tagging, and I'm not sure who he was tagging, but they said he was being used as a tagger. I don't know whether it was Rankin he was tagging, but Rankin only got the one disposal in the first quarter, one in the second, and it's only in the second half that he got some of the ball.
Yep. Yep. Look, there's not a lot else to say. I felt like Mitch Hinge played okay. I felt like
Hinge was good.
Michael Annie. I felt our defence again played pretty well. Michael Annie, Keane, Worrell tried to third man up as much as he could. We just
they all did their job. Yeah, I agree.
We can't. I just don't feel like I can bag the players aside from their disposal when the previous week they were like a completely different team. To me, it feels to me like they're being stifled. It feels to me that when they're asked to play this defensive style game, they don't enjoy it. They're not engaged in it. They don't. There's no buy-in. That's just my opinion from the outside, Macca.
Well, they appear to be trying things. I think there's buy-in in the sense of effort, but it's what they're trying to achieve once they've got the ball that's not so good. I
mean buy-in to the game plan.
If we knew what the game plan was.
Well, his game plan is to not overcommit, Macca. If you go back and have a look, his game plan is to not overcommit players ahead of the ball. That's what he wants to do. And the problem is, right, so he likes to compress the contest. So our half-forward line is often very high, okay, because he likes to have extra numbers around the ball. Okay, so all of a sudden, you've robbed the forward line of a couple of players. And when he plays his defensive style, he also likes to he doesn't like to overcommit midfielders. So he likes to keep them sort of behind or at the ball as well. He doesn't like aggressive movement ahead of the ball. So you end up in this situation where you've got a crowded contest with a lot of traffic, and you're kicking into a forward line where we're invariably outnumbered. You know, how many times did you see Tex 2-on-1 or Fog 2-on-1? Or us kick it to the forward line and there was no one there for us? It's because we commit so high with our half forwards. We always have done with him. He just loves outnumbering at the contest. And other teams don't play that way. We haven't played that way for a long time, right? Because other teams now, they just sweat off. And they get players on the outside and they're off.
Well, that is a perfect analysis of what is actually happening, because we do have our forward. I know he loves having that forward line up around the midfield, so they can be extra defenders if necessary. Again, illustrating your point about the defensive side of the game. But once we've got the ball, of course, then it's a different story, because we're outnumbered up forward where we want to kick the ball to. And Walker and Fogarty, they found it very hard, because and the one time Walker's got a lovely lead, they kick it over bloody head.
They bloody ignore him. Oh, well, it happened to Fogarty as well. Kick it over his head or kick it wide, and Ben Keys did one. I don't know where he was kicking it to, the scoreboard attendant or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, but you're right. We get ourselves into an outnumbered situation. I mean, the last week we didn't actually play quite like that. We played a very attacking game, and players were running forward of the ball. They might have started
exactly.
By the time we got possession in the back lines, we had probably a couple of loose players into our forward line, which gave us that. And then, because that draws players away from Walker, draws players away from Fogarty. So then all of a sudden you've got options then to pass the ball. So the attacking way is the way we should be going, because that's the way our players perform at their best. But I don't think that's, well, I'm with you. I think Nixon's wanting to play a much more negative game. That's not the game we played last year. That's not the game that was successful for us last year, but for some reason he seems to have reverted back to this negativity.
Well, the bailout option inside forward 50, Macca, is to get a throw in. I'm convinced.
Yes,
if you can't hit it, if you can't find a target, then you get it to the boundary line to cause a stoppage at halfback. It's the most defensive, futile game plan. Let's just keep it in. And how many times did the ball just get run out? And it happens repeatedly because we don't have the bloody numbers, right?
Correct.
We don't have a situation where, like, he doesn't want to concede, so he keeps players back. And then we get to the wing and we run out of options because he hasn't given players enough license to push up. And it's also very easy to defend half a ground, right? So if we're just chipping down the wings and then all of a sudden we want to look inboard, well, of course the opposition's going to have three there, right? Of course they're going to force us to kick down the line into the bloody dead pocket. You know, I mean, it just makes... You don't try to transition inboard from the wing. That's not where you do it. You've got to come in off half back. You've got to shift the defence around. You've got to shift that zone around and create width and create space. And what he's doing is just like it's an under-8s coach kind of thing, Macca. And I'm no expert. You're no expert. We're looking at it from the cheap seats. We haven't seen the bloody whiteboard in his office or anything like that. We're only watching it from either the TV or at the ground or whatever. But it just seems such a sterile, futile way to play the game. And the one time we didn't play that way, we rode our luck and we won it against a contender on their home deck. The only away game we've won for 7,000 years.
You would have thought that having played the way we did last week against a team that, as you say, is a premiership contender and beaten them, that we would think, well, that's the way to play and we'll play that way again this week. But it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Now, whether the players didn't butter up, but you actually analysed it very, very well. That situation that he likes to have that extra man, at least one extra man in defence, and sometimes two. And if you do that, you have to be short down forward by one, maybe two. And then so you win the ball there with the excess numbers down defence. Who are you going to kick it to?
Well, it's not that he wants one in defence. He likes them up around the ball, Macca. He likes that extra around. It's the reason why Lockie Murphy keeps getting played. I'm positive it's the reason that Ned McHenry keeps getting played because he wants that extra, like, sort of energy, I guess, around the contest, right? He wants them to play high. You don't see either of those two players get near to goal that often. You know, once or twice maybe, but that's not their primary role. Their primary role is to play really high as half forwards, which means that our leading forwards, Fogarty and Walker, tend to end up leading high as well. So they get the ball, you know, sort of forward of wing often, and you know, turn around and what do we do now, sort of thing. It's just it's a very I think he's copied a game plan from a coach that he's had, or maybe Hinckley in his early years. I don't bloody know, but it's not the way that modern teams play football, and he's actually killing us by doing it. He will find himself out on his arse, and it'll kill his coaching career because he's not giving himself any chance to win.
Yeah, well, you summed it up beautifully. I've got nothing to add to that because you summed it up. It's not a winning formula. That's the worst part of it, thing.
No.
You know, I think he's a stubborn man, and stubborn people could also be fools as well because they can't see that the need for change, and it's a screaming need for change. If we keep playing like that every week, we won't win many games. And he'll be out of a job. So he's not too smart.
See, I don't have a problem with the coach having the courage of his convictions. And the coach, looks at his squad and looks at the way the game's played and looks at our strengths and weaknesses and comes up with a plan, right? And I think there are times where you need to allow that plan to develop, right? And you've got to back it in to a certain degree. But just because he's got the courage of his convictions doesn't you've still got to have a good plan, right? And it seems to me that what he's identified in the off season was we leaked too many goals, we leaked too many scores, right? Too much scores. So in order to reduce the amount of scores that we're leaking, he's decided to sacrifice some players ahead of the ball in order to make it more difficult for the opponents to transition, right, to get scoring opportunities. But what we've seen is that that's not effective. The only thing that it's effective in doing is robbing us of any avenues to goal. Again, we kick 11 goals.
Yeah, well, I like the old Malcolm Blight philosophy. Yeah, the opposition can kick 15 goals as long as we kick 20. I mean, it's a matter of just kicking a better score.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, when you're locking the other thing is because we hold back so much on transition, when the ball rebounds out of defence, we're not up high. We're not in a position to be able to get secondary inside 50s, right? How many times did the ball come out of Essendon's forward 50 and then go straight back in because they were able to rebound it back in because they've been able to set up a good formation, across the wing sort of half back line for them. Whereas when the opponents get the ball in our forward 50, it's almost off to the races half the time because we are still sitting behind and we are not actually pushed up enough to be in position to be able to cut off those 45-degree kicks or cut off the quick switch or what have you. Yeah, and we just get absolutely torn to pieces.
That's 100% right. And, I don't know whether he's unintelligent or whether he's stubborn, but it's very clear if he's going to play this type of game plan, we aren't going to win. And yet we played a different type of game plan last year, which was very highly successful. And unfortunately, that forward line coach has gone. But it wasn't absolutely a magic secret how we played.
No.
Rahili, and what Rahili did, he made the forward line structure move around, and the ball was, and the whole thing was that they had places they had to go to and move and make room for other players to go to that particular spot. So all that could still be done, but you can't do
Macca,
it.
You're missing the point. Raleigh was able to do those things because our transition was better. And let's not gild the lily on this one. The second half of the year, we did revert to a more stodgy style of game plan. We brought Matt Crouch back in. We were slow around the ball. We only won 3 of our last 7. Let's not gild that lily. Last season, it was between rounds 4 and 7, or 3 and 7, 4 and 8, or something or other, where we really set up our season with some scintillating football. And it was on the back of our run and carry, aggressive ball movement, not playing this stodgy stuff. Now, I'm sure Riley was a good forwards coach, but I think too much has been placed on that because we saw last week what could happen, Macca, when we move the ball quickly. 2 things. First of all, we don't allow the opposition to get back and crowd the forward line, which means that Walker and Fogarty and that have got room to lead into. And secondly, we're actually moving the ball at pace, so we're actually delivering into forward 50 under less pressure. And from further forward, not from the bloody wing, we're actually kicking it into the forward 50 from 70 metres out, not 90. So, yes, I'm sure Raleigh was a good coach. Yes, he did some good things with our forward line, but he's not the reason we're struggling. The reason we're struggling is because we've completely changed how we play the game.
Yeah, what you're saying is it's not coming in the same way with the same amount of players there to receive the ball.
Yeah, and too many of the opposition because they've had time to get back.
Mm.
So
anyway,
look,
what changes would you make in our side for this week then, Feen?
well, out goes Matthew Nix and in comes Nathan Buckley, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that's a very good change, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
no, the problem is that the players have to wear some of it. I mean, their disposal and their ball handling was poor, right? They could have done better with ball in hand, I believe. And Essendon didn't play that well. They're not that great a team. And we could have played at 75% of our capacity, and we could have won the game. Okay, and as it was, we nearly won the game anyway. So, all is not lost in that regard. But the problem is that I hazard a guess, and if we'd have played the way we did against Carlton, against Essendon, Macca, we wouldn't have let them in. They wouldn't have had a chance, particularly with 50,000 screaming fans. We would have won by 10 goals playing that sort of football. So when you reduce the scoring in the game, you actually make yourself more vulnerable because the lead never blows out.
Yeah, that's actually true. So do you think that he will change this week, or do you think he'll just roll up the same game plan?
Well, it's hard to know. We got North down at Tassie. North were obviously pretty average this week, and you can imagine that Clarkson will tell them to bring their mouth guards like Sammy Mitchell did the week before with the Hawks. It's actually a bit surprising to me that North are doing so badly, given that they've got a very good midfield and they got one or two decent forwards. We will. I would imagine if I was a North Melbourne midfielder, Macca, after what they dished up against Hawthorn this week, I'd be looking at the Adelaide midfield lineup and thinking, I've got a chance to atone here, right? Because it's not Cripps and Walsh, it's not the Dacos brothers and Pendlebury, it's not Lockie Neal and Hugh McCluggage, it's not a gilt-edged midfield, and I think they'd be licking their lips. And if North Melbourne's midfield get on top of us, they've got enough up forward that it doesn't matter that their defence is shit. They'll get enough they'll get enough ball up forward to be able to, like Ford and Larkey and those blokes will kick enough goals to really make it difficult for us to win. And plus, it's at Tassie. I don't know. The last time we ran in Tassie was a absolute fall over the line job against Hawthorn a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we don't go too well down there. Well, if you line up the personnel, North have got a lot of good young players that aren't anywhere near their full capacity of what they're going to be. I would expect them to win this game on the basis of the fact that although all of our players aren't perfect, most of them are at their mature best, as opposed to North Adelaide North Melbourne, playing a lot of young players who at this stage aren't at their very, very maximum. I mean, a bloke like Sheasel is an absolute exception, of course. He's just a freak. But McKercher, players like that, they're doing a good job, but they're at this stage they're only bit players because they're learning the game. They've probably got about 4 or 5 of those in their side clean, and that's probably where we should be exploiting it and winning the game.
Yeah. They've also got a far better coach, Mac.
Oh, there's no argument about that.
Far better coach. Clarkson would be itching to get a win on the board. He would see this as a real opportunity to get a win on the board, and he'll coach his ass off. Right? He will shut us down as much as he possibly can. And, I don't think we've got the smarts in the box to counter that. To be honest with you, we've got the personnel, absolutely, but I don't know whether we've got the smarts.
Well, the game starts in the middle, and they've got a good ruckman in Zeri. He's been growing as a player right through the season, getting better and better, and he's a real scrapper as well. So he'll make O'Brien earn his money. So I don't think we're going to get a great advantage out of Riley O'Brien. And they've got LDU. He's a very, very good midfielder. But I think that overall, Feen, that if you line up their midfield as it is at the moment, and you line up our midfield at the moment, I think our midfield's as good as theirs, and maybe slightly better because of the presence of Dawson.
Well, depends which midfield they play, Mac. Crouch will be back.
Yep.
So what do they do with Laird?
Well, you can't have him in the same midfield. He would, with me, he'd be starting on the bench and he'd be rotating in and out, but not at the same time as Crouch. So, like Dawson, Crouch and Saligo is my preferred midfield start. And, that would be my preferred midfield bounce every time. But obviously there's got to be changes. But Rankin's got to come in there for returns, and as does Rochelle. And, I just think that
Rochelle still isn't getting many CBAs, mate.
No, not enough. I think he should be getting more now. And just find out the guy who actually, when he played his junior football, he was a star midfielder. So I don't know.
Well, he won an MVP. He won the competition MVP in his under 18 year or under 16 year. I can't remember which.
Under 16.
Might have been under 16. Right?
Yep, and but the guys. But the guy should be playing through the midfield as well, just to increase your options. You can never have too many options in the midfield. But I reckon, if we break even in the midfield, I think we'll do at least that. And then I think we get the ball forward with the quality of the players we've got up forward. As long as we don't, as you say, have all our players high up at centre wing and even beyond, we've got an opportunity, I think, to crack a win here. We should win, and I think I'd be. And if we were to lose, I'd be calling for Nixon's head right now.
Well, let's quickly have a look at maybe the ins and outs that we could expect. Assuming Berry's got an ankle, you would think that he would come out for Crouch.
Yep.
So that's a forced change. Okay. Mac, I don't want to see Ned McHenry and Lockie Scholl around our team again. Ned McHenry was woeful.
He was in my terrible category. We had 2 or 3 terrible ones. Cook was another one I thought was he's just not doing enough. If you look at his stats, I don't think they actually even moved after halftime.
How many games has he played, Mac?
He hasn't played a lot, but he's still got to be able to get the ball.
Yeah, let's give him a couple more.
Yeah, you're being a little bit kind. I didn't think he worked hard enough, but okay. But he's one that I've got a question.
Well, he's got to have the opportunity. He's got to have the opportunity to learn, right? He's got to have the opportunity to learn. And I'll tell you what, I watched the SANFL on the weekend, and he's not learning anything there, right? And that's another argument for getting these lads into the team because, we're playing with a team half full of top-ups. The umpiring's against us. Kids versus men half the time. It's just, it's not worth it at all. Right? Not worth it at all. Braden learns more by progressing through a patch of games, a block of games, maybe half a dozen in the ones. And they need to take the pressure off him by saying, look, you're going to get selected for the next half a dozen, but you need to learn and progress, and here are your KPIs, and here's your targets that you need to meet. That's how you develop a player. We are not contending, Macca. We are not contending. So we don't have to apply the you only get selected if you perform shit, because that's not where we're at.
No, but by the same token, there's got to be a certain standard you must achieve to hold your spot in this, because there'll be other players.
Eventually.
Yeah, because there'll be players playing in the twos that playing week after week after week and not getting rewarded when they can see other players that aren't performing. So, it's
well, I would rather drop senior players for those kids than a kid for a kid. We do this kid for a kid swap all the time.
Well, I wouldn't be upset if they dropped Smith, for example.
Ned McHenry, I think, should be out. Lockie Shoal, there's two. Ned McHenry and Lockie Shoal.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you could push Braden Cook to a half-forward flank, and you could bring in Edwards or Dowling into that wing role, right?
Yep.
You don't have to drop Braden Cook, right? Yes, certainly. If he drops in a couple more performances like that, then it's probably trying to give him a spell on physical grounds more than anything else. And then we bring in someone else, and then at the end of the season we can say, well, we gave Braden Cook half a dozen games, and then we gave Billy Dowling a few games, and you can make a proper assessment on kids when you give them a block of games to be able to learn and develop and find their way. If they're in out. It's the same with Lockie Gallant. I hope they don't drop him. He's got to work through where he sits in, and let's face it, the team up forward isn't very well structured to cater for him. Already got Tex and Fogg as a focal points. Lockie Gallant's going to get the bloody scraps. Anything that's not going to Tex or Fogg is going to Isaac or a Small. It's not going to Lockie Gallant. So where's he getting his ball from? I hope they've identified a role for him. I hope they've actually, made him part of the cohesive forward line and not just, pick up the scraps, Lockie, and then get dropped after 2 weeks.
Yeah, given the way the game was played, given the position he was being asked to play, I didn't think Gallant was all that bad. Just with the few opportunities he really got.
And chopped out all right too, Mac, I thought, in ruck.
Yeah, no, I thought I'm with you. I think Gallant should be given a string of games. He has got potential because he can take a high grab. And
look what's happened with Sam Berry. Like, notwithstanding he got injured, but like over the last couple of weeks, he looked really good early on against Essendon, and he obviously came on as sub the couple of weeks prior and did very, very well. You got to persist. You just got to persist, and you can't. There is no point dropping a lad like Braden Cook if you're going to keep a lad like Ned McHenry in the side, because we know what Ned McHenry is not going to give us anything different to what he's given us so far. We know his ceiling. We know his capabilities. That's it. We've seen what Ned can give us.
Yeah, well, if we're going to retain Cook, then he's got to move to a half-forward flank, which is his real natural position.
Yeah, he's not really a wingman, right? Mm. So, but on McHenry, unless we felt like he was going to improve any further, do you think he offers enough to be an AFL footballer?
No, he's scrapped.
So, let's forget about it. Lockie Shoal, we've seen enough. Yes, he's silky and he's got great foot skills and all the rest of it. But is he actually going to, get the hard ball? Is he actually going to not drop out of the contest when things are in tight? Or is it just going to be an outside seagull? Because we got rid of an outside seagull. We don't need another one.
I wouldn't have brought him in this week, thing. Not at all.
So
it was a perfect week to bring Billy Dowling in, I thought.
So I've identified two lads that we've seen, and we've given them plenty of opportunities, Macca. And if the hierarchy think that those lads are part of our best 23, then there are big problems. Big problems, because they are not, right? They are not. Why have we got a lad like Ned McHenry delivering the pre-match rev up in the huddle? Why we've got 347 in the leadership group, and we've still got the lad that's played 50 games, giving the rev up.
The 23rd best player giving the rev up.
There's just not a lot of sense in all of that, right? There's just not a lot of sense, and obviously not a lot of leadership for those leaders to enable a bloke like to leave it to Ned to and I don't doubt that Nev talks it up pretty well. Is a feisty sort of a character and all that, but gee whiz. Right.
Well,
so in terms of selection, Sholland and McHenry for mine needs to be out, along with Berry if Berry's injured. So Crouch comes in for Berry. I think Dowley comes in for Scholl, and I don't know who else comes in for McHenry. We'd probably drop Cook forward and maybe bring in Ollie Edwards.
Well, apparently Edwards didn't have a big game, but I'm sure
doesn't matter.
I'm sure that if the people who watch the SA could tell us better who could come in there, but
I watched it on the weekend, mate.
Did you? Yeah. Do you reckon do you think Edwards is ready? I mean, I think he's going to be a good player in time, but do you think he's ready?
I think he's physically ready. I mean, it's so hard. Like, you go back and watch an SANFL game, Mac, it's impossible to judge. It's such a scrappy pile of shit. Like, it really is. The game bears no reference. The game bears no comparison to an AFL game of football. So to me, if you've picked a lad on the basis that he's got some quality and all the rest of it, freaking play him. Peds is another. He's been getting enough of the ball. I know he was in poor form before. Maybe needs a couple more on the ball just to, get a bit more confidence and all the rest of it. But, geez, for the love of God, why would you play Ned McHenry over Luke Pedler, who was a pick 9?
And, yeah, I totally agree with you. There's more promise long-term in Pedler than there is in McHenry. So you've got to...
Sorry, Matt, pick 11. Matt's all over me with draft picks tonight. But he was first round draft pick, right? And I know Ned was too, but less said about that, the better. But, we took Luke early on the basis that we didn't want to miss out on him in that draft year. And now we're absolutely cooking him by playing him on bloody intercept defenders and then dropping him. Another thing, I thought Harry Schoenberg didn't look too bad for his first game back. It was good to see him back in the twos.
Yeah, I think give him another couple and he'll be knocking on the door.
Oh, yeah, he needs to probably build up a bit of match fitness, I would say.
Yeah, got to get a tank going.
So we've got those blokes. Laird, I think, won't get dropped, but must be close. His value to the side since he hasn't been that cold-faced midfielder, Macca, has reduced substantially, in my opinion.
Yeah, but he will still be in the side all this year. It's next year is going to be his danger year.
Yeah, I agree, but I'd have him out earlier. Brodie Smith is the other. I mean, if they're going to play Brodie with a crook back, and as I said earlier in traction, that's a fair indication that he's going to have to actually lose a leg or something before they drop him.
Yeah, it's disappointing because, I'd be happy to see Brodie drop and give young Oscar Ryan to go there in his spot.
Well, I think what they'd probably say to you is that with Miller out, they need the experience across half back. But for an experienced player, he makes a lot of bloody mistakes.
Well, I think he's a costly player, and he does occasionally do some good things, but he if you really weigh it up, he does cost a lot too with his dump kicks and the ball.
Oh, we've been saying that for years, mate. We've been saying it for years.
I know. When you weigh it up, he often ends up in the negative, in my opinion, and It'd be nice just to have a half-back flanker that gets the ball and puts it neatly onto a forward's chest. That'd be lovely.
Use the ball constructively. If you look at other halfbacks around, like they often played the Dacos boys off halfback Collingwood, and they rarely spray the ball long. They are usually pinpoint with what they're doing, and it's usually an aggressive pass into a dangerous area that opens up the play for Collingwood. That's what you want.
Yeah.
This dump-kicking crap.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because you take our last line of defence and you look at it, between them, the maximum anyone's played would be 20 games, wouldn't it? Out of those three, Worrell, Keane, and Michaelani, and those three are very dependable players, and they actually use the ball very well as well. On top of that, the problems aren't them.
Not hard to be a defender, mate. It's like being a drummer in a band.
I'll be a little bit.
Shout out to all the fullbacks listening in.
Yeah, be a bit kind. No, I think those three do a very good job, really good job, and I think they do use the ball well. And then we get to half-back flank, and I thought that actually Jones at times wasn't too bad. I mean, he had moments when he was no good either, but he did actually try to use the ball when he got it, and I thought he wasn't overly bad. Smithwood just stood out in terms of being bad.
Yeah, well, different kind of player, obviously, but the composure that Max shows compared to Brodie, for example, it's chalk and cheese. Chase, I feel like he's got to deliver more, Macca. I feel what I'd like to see Chase do is break a line. I just like he runs in straight lines. I like that about him. I like the fact that he can hit up short passes. I'd like to see him break a line. I just don't think he's got it in him to be able to do it because he doesn't have that spatial awareness, so he's very much a get and give kind of player. But he's got the speed and the strength to be able to burst through if he actually had some confidence.
Yeah, I think it's a very good summary of him, actually. He's actually got a few more talents than I think he believes he has himself. As you say, if he had the confidence and the utter belief in himself, he has got speed and got very good speed, and he has got good strength for a kiddie size. And he's not a bad user of the ball when he's actually really on and concentrating. So, yeah, but if he could just run a little bit more of the ball and break the lines and get over that next level, that's when you get the opposition into trouble.
So anyway, mate, I think that's probably about all we can talk about, really. It's been a very good night tonight. We've had, again, thousands of people, millions of people, maybe a couple of hundred people listening to us live on Twitter and on YouTube, which is fantastic. Thanks very much. And on Facebook as well. My apologies to those who had trouble with Discord tonight. We'll try and resolve that during the week. So I might, Scoot and Mick and a couple of others, I might actually hit you up to do a little bit of testing during the week to see what's happened there, because it doesn't make sense to me that some people in the same roles can hear and others can't. So anyway, we'll sort that out during the week. Mac, what do you reckon? Are we going to get over the line against North?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say yes. On paper, we are a better side in the sense that our side has more experience, and I think North Melbourne have got a lot of talent on the rise, but it's not there yet. And if we lose to North Melbourne, then I think surely we've got to really have a good look at the coach position. No, I think we will win the game. I'm not thinking we're going to win it by mountains. We might win it by 3 or 4 goals. And if we don't, well, it wouldn't be any good.
Now, Scoot requests that we don't do any after dark tonight, Macca, but Scoot, we're going to have the most revealing, shocking, surprising after dark ever, mate. So sorry you missed it. Never mind.
You're going to reveal all those secrets, are you?
Yeah, the ones that we've been talking about off air. I think it's about time after dark heard them.
Yeah, sorry, Scoot.
Look, mate, I'm not very confident against North. I could have a bit of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know, but Tasmania, I feel like their strength is our weakness, or not our weakness, but our Achilles heel, depending on how we play. And if they get on top of us, it'll be hard to stop them. I think we're going to go down by a couple, to be honest with you.
Oh, Feen, that's very negative, mate.
No, it's not negative. I honestly, on the balance of probabilities, and I'm swayed very much by the venue, because there's been bad North Melbourne teams before that have cleaned us up down there, Mac.
Oh yeah, I can remember one in particular that was terrible.
Yes, there have been bad North Melbourne teams that have cleaned us up down there. We're not great. We're only a win ahead of North after 7 or 6
True.
or whatever the hell it is. We're only a win ahead of them.
Look, I can be negative, but I'm not this week. I think that surely somebody's going to put a rocket up Nix's backside and get him to coach a little bit better. Surely they're going to have a better plans than they did this week, which were proved to be fruitless and futile. And I'm just hoping that they just have a real crack at them and gun and run game against North Melbourne. And I think that we can get up. And I'm thinking 3 or 4 goals.
Well, I certainly hope so. Our season is pretty much shot, mate.
It is.
It's pointless now, and I guess this is why I'm heavy on playing the kids or the younger players, because there is absolutely no point now worrying about results. The only thing that we can achieve out of this season is what we should have achieved in the back half of last season, but we had shiny finals in our faces and we reverted away from development. But this season is over, and the rest of this year needs to be used to sort out whether Braden Cook has got it. And if he hasn't got it after a block of games, fine. At least you've given the lad an opportunity, and he has or hasn't made it. Then you can make an informed decision. You can move him on if needs be, or what have you, right? Mm-hmm. But we tend to keep these players on our list for far too long, Mac, because they're always almost players, right? Oh, we haven't given him enough of an opportunity. We just need to give him a little bit more, blah, 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 blah. And they stay on our list for 4 years. We should be able to sort out whether a recruit is worth it, particularly not a tall guy maybe, but particularly a midfielder or whatever. We should be able to work out in the space of 18 months whether that lad's up to scratch, right? But they stay on our list for 4 years.
Well, you look at Edith Himmelberg, for example. We could have actually got rid of him over to GWS. And look, he's never going to be in our side permanently. And he's not that good even when he comes in as a last desperation act. And we carry players, too many players that just aren't going to play. So, and somebody says Himmelberg 10 years. My God. That's a very good example.
It's not that long.
But he's been around a bloody long time.
It's not, surely not that long.
We just can't keep. You've got to clean out the maybe players and get play and have a new set of players to try. And
well, this is it, right? This is it, and you've got to give those lads an opportunity, and a meaningful opportunity. You've got to play them in the position that you drafted them for. You've got to let them have a run. Imagine if Harley Reid was playing for Adelaide. Do you think he'd be playing it first up in the midfield, Mac? Like, honestly, do you think he would be?
No, but he's lucky to get in the bloody side.
Well, he'd be in the side, but I bet you anything he wouldn't be in the midfield. He'd be stuck on a half-forward flank.
Probably.
And therein lies the difference in philosophy, right?
Or the sub.
So this year, in my opinion, I think the club got ahead of itself at the back end of last year. I even called it Mac, as you well know, halfway through the back end of last year, that we'd lost sight of development, and we weren't spending time getting games into players and bringing Matt Crouch in. And look, Matt Crouch has been fantastic, Macca, when he's come back for what he does. But is it really to the team's betterment or the club's betterment to have Matthew Crouch in our side?
Given the structure of what we've got available, I think it is. Yes, I do.
We've got someone like him.
I'm listening.
Well, you know we have. The bloke that you didn't rate, that you now have to rate because you can't help but rate him because the numbers are on the board.
What, Berry?
Absolutely.
No, I don't rate Berry at the same level as Crouch. I thought Berry has improved and Berry is getting better.
You might not rate Berry at the same level as Crouch, but Crouch has played 180 games or whatever it is. Berry's played 40. There's no point in continuing to play Crouch when what you want to do is develop Berry.
Yeah, look, I can't agree with Veen. I think there's room for both on the side. I'm happy to have Berry in the side as part of the rotations.
Matt Crouch is not going to be in our next premiership side, so why don't we maximise his value by trading him?
To me, we get the best set of results when he's in the middle.
We're not after results. We're after development, Macca.
Well, yeah. How many years are we going to go through the development stage, Feen? I mean, we're supposed to be gone through the development stage. And
You're confusing me, mate. Because do you honestly think that we should be shooting for finals right now?
When we started the season, that was the goal. That was the goal, wasn't it?
It's not now, though.
Well, in terms of practicality,
people heard me say "fuck me."
Oh.
Sorry, Mum. Look, let's not get into an argument because the kids hate it when we argue, Mac. But I guess we're at different points of view. I think. The back end of this last season was wasted. Yes, it was fun to go on a run that nearly got us into a finals, but we were ahead of our time in that sense, and we did sacrifice the development of some key young players in order to do that, right? I feel like now we're in a position where we've played our seniors again this year, and it hasn't worked, and the game plan hasn't worked. That we are not going to make finals. Let's be honest, we're not going to make finals. So what is the point now in persevering with Brodie Smith, Rory Laird, Matty Crouch, those blokes? If there are replacements for them that we can at least look at and see if they've got it. If Berry hasn't got it, that's fine, but you want to give him the keys and say, all right, Sam, do something with this and see how you go, right? Like, you can't turn around and bag the kid because he's done everything asked of him over the last 3 weeks. So you've got to give him an opportunity, Macca, in my opinion.
Well, roll the clock back 2 weeks, and Crouch was our best player and set us up in the midfield, and we won the game. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there this week, and we lost the game.
Matty Crouch was not the reason we beat Carlton. If you think Matty Crouch is the reason we beat Carlton, then you've had too many pain medication.
He was given best player in that particular game.
By who?
By Medivine, apart from you, who's always against him.
No, and you said Rankin was clearly our best against Carlton.
Oh, sorry. Rankin.
Yes.
Okay, second
No,
best.
not then Crouch. Soligo was second best.
We're going down the list.
Come on, mate. Come on.
He was very. If you go back and have a look at his stats, he was very. Somebody said they put it. Vardy says he was very pivotal in the Carlton win, and he was. He was very
Who's Vardy? Vardy's not Malcolm Blight. He's just a bloody old forward pocket who used to kick Larry goals.
He's a very wise man.
I guess look, I'm not disputing. I've given Crouch praise since he's been back, right? But I'm thinking about what is required of this. And all right, so look at this. Collingwood win a premiership, they still get rid of Taylor Adams, right? We need to be thinking, where's our next... We're not in the premiership hunt over the next 2 or 3 yeyears. It's fantastic that Crouch has worked his way back into form because now he's got some bloody trade value. So let's maximise it.
Yeah, but I'll query on the Adams thing. They moved Adams on because of they had problems with their salary cap. That's why he got moved.
Well, let's talk about Crouch, not Adams.
No, you raised him.
Yeah, I know, but let's talk about Crouch. I think we should maximise Crouch's value, which we probably should have done 2 years ago, but here we are. He's managed to pull himself up off the canvas and turn himself back into a distributor. Let's put him on the trade table.
Yeah, look, I don't think the club will do it, Pete.
So who would take Matt Crouch? Who would take Matt Crouch, Mac?
Well, I don't know, Pete. I mean, this is a very hypothetical. You throw it on me at the last second, because I wouldn't be trading him anyhow. But I'm sure that if he was going, somebody would take him.
You reckon?
I don't know, Feenix. It's all bloody hypothetical at this stage. And
of course, it's hypothetical. I guess my point is that I don't reckon it'd be worth a first rounder, and therefore, it shows that one of our so-called, or a guy you rate as our premier midfielder.
Our best distributor.
Our best distributor then it doesn't even rate a first rounder.
We got a lot of players who won't. In fact, who we
we're just no. Don't see you deflect. We talked about this, Macca.
No. It's a fair question.
Let's talk about bloody Crouch. The question is, you rate him as our best extractor, yet he's probably would get us a mid-second rounder at best, right? At best. Let's remember Brad, his brother, who was a far more dynamic player, didn't get any more than that. So if that's the best we've got, then why are we hanging on to him at the expense of developing someone underneath him?
Because I don't think we have that player. That's why.
He's right there. You just don't rate him.
But you're always right when you don't rate Crouch, and I'm always wrong when I don't rate Berry.
It's not about who's rating who. I'm saying that Crouch at his age, right, is worth more for a draft pick because he's not elite, right? He's not a walk-up star at any other team. He's not elite. So why are you hanging on to somebody, not you, the club? Why is the club hanging on to somebody who's not elite, is very good, but is not going to be around for our next premiership, right? He's not going to be there for our next flag. So what is the purpose of hanging on to him when we have got players underneath him that can step up and play that role?
Well, we differ in opinions here. You think you have a higher opinion of Berry than I do. I think Berry's a really good battler for the ball, but I don't think he's going to be.
Come on, mate. You ate your words last week.
No,
you ate your words last week.
I said he played well last week.
And the week before.
Yeah, but
and he was playing well, and he was playing well until he did his ankle.
Yeah, but he's not again. On the trade table, what are you going to get for him?
Who, Berry? Well, who knows? He's not developed yet.
You wouldn't even get a second rounder.
He's a kid, mate.
I don't know
you're not logical. You're not logical. You're not
No,
picking up the logic of what I'm saying. What's the point of carrying Matt Crouch when he's not going to be part of the next premiership?
no, but your logic is that basically shut up shop now in terms of trying to get anywhere. And
Well, of course we have to. Do you disagree with that?
I think I mean, from a club point of view, they've got to try and win some bloody games because of the fact of the.
Oh, fucking hell.
No, but the club's got to have supporters. It's got to have
Oh.
people who.
I didn't take you for a happy clapper, mate.
I'm not a happy clapper.
Oh.
I'm not a happy clapper. We always get
oh.
There's one player.
Physically ill. No, it's not even about. No, the question was, do you think we should lock in development now, or do you think we should still try and aim for a top 8 finish? And you're saying we should still be trying to win games.
I think at this stage we should still be trying to win games, yes. Oh, okay. Now you've got me.
Well,
chat.
There we go.
Only points. It is points. We did very well all bloody Carson.
Don't spit the dummy now. I was just you've made your position and I've made my position. That's fine, and we'll put up a poll on all our platforms during the course of the week, and we'll maybe trade you the project.
Oh dear. Hey.
Oh, come on, mate. Smile. Don't you taking the piss.
I hate the Crouch conversations because
it's not even the Crouch conversation. This is not even about Crouch. It's about should we still be trying to obviously the team goes out every week and tries to win the game. That's obvious, and the coach should coach to win the game. That's obvious, but there are selection and list management considerations when you get to this part of the season where you need to sort out who you've got on your list and whether they're worth keeping or not. And I guess that's where I'm coming from, that yes, you run out through the race and you want to win the game. Yes, you coach the side as if you want to win the game. But in terms of selection and who you play and who you give opportunities and how much opportunity you give players, that's got to change because you're no longer contending for anything. You're not, even if we made the 8, we're not contending for a flag, we're contending for a belting. So, there's no point in shooting for that, right? Surely.
Yeah, but from my point of view, the chances of making the 8 are very remote, very remote. But if we lost the next couple of games, I might agree with you. But at this stage, we've only played one quarter of the season.
So tell me what the point of making the finals would be.
Well, this club hasn't made the finals for so many bloody years. And even that is a feather in our cap. At least it gives the supporters hope for the future.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, we have different points of view on that, and I'm sure the people listening to us have different points of view on that.
Well, you managed to get me rubbish mercifully, and I just think it's pathetic.
Well, I didn't do anything. It's just like whatever people think in the chat, Macca. So I've put forward my point of view. You've put forward your point of view. I'm really interested to hear what people have to say. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment down in the YouTube. I'll be putting some polls up during the week because I don't profess to be right or wrong. I don't profess that Macca's right or wrong. I'm just very interested at 1-6 what our supporters feel like we should be doing as a club for the remainder of the season.
1-5.
1-5. What we should be doing as a club for the remainder of the season. So watch out for those polls during the course of the week. And
you're saying we should drop Crouch and bring in Berry in his place. That's what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that we should be looking to develop and not worried about results.
No, we were talking specifically about dropping Crouch and bringing in Berry.
on
his
the
place.
basis that we should be looking at development and not results. My question to you was, should we still be trying to pick a side to win every week at the expense of development? And you said yes. So that's the question that I'm going to put to people.
Well, I said yes for the next 2 weeks at least, yes.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's fine. No need to get uppity about it, mate. We've got different opinions. That's fine.
No, it's the approach. Anyhow, let's move on.
It's the approach. All right. Well, look, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for listening in. During the last 10 minutes, about 20% of people dropped off YouTube because of that drivel. Look out for our platforms during the week, and hopefully we'll have something better to talk about next week, which is a win over North Melbourne. But in the meantime, have a good week, everyone. Stay safe, be careful, and we will see you next week. Good night, everyone.